let's get started. So we'll go over my background just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from and my experiences. We will go over the simple cash budget sheet a little bit later on, talk about the QuickBooks Online discounts that we can help you with, a couple more ways of stretching your dollar further, and then any questions you might have. And as you see, when we go through the actual spreadsheet, there's going to be a couple of natural places for us to stop and see if there's any questions. So I graduated from Youngstown State with a bachelor's in accounting and finance. I'm also a certified management accountant, which is a CMA, not a CPA, like many of you are accustomed to. So it's just another professional accounting certification, and its main focus is in the areas of budgeting and forecasting, cost management, financial statement analysis, corporate finance, internal controls, analytics, risk management, and making investment decisions. I'm actually a full-time firefighter. That's my main job, but because of the awesome schedule with that, I'm able to be a small business owner as well. And my company is Metz Consulting. I provide small business accounting services. My clients are nonprofits, software tech companies, additive manufacturing, home and professional services, and a little bit of government accounting as well. One of the areas I have some knowledge, but I'm definitely not an expert in, is anything tax related. So that's more of a CPA function. That's what they are trained in and understand better than anybody. And I pretty much try to focus in the areas that I talked about with the CMA. So as far as the QuickBooks Online and different Intuit discounts, I'm a QuickBooks Online Pro advisor. And with that, I'm able to get the online versions of QuickBooks, all of them, at almost 50% off of retail. So I will have all of your contact information. And if you're interested in taking us up on that offer, we can make it happen. If you currently have a subscription to QuickBooks Online, that's okay. We can bring it over and make it work. The same goes for QuickBooks Online's payroll function. It's a great package. A few of my clients use it. They pretty much do all of the work for you with payroll. It's pretty affordable compared to Paychex and ADP, in my opinion. If you've heard of T-Sheets, it was its own company, but Intuit purchased them. It's a great time tracking software, and it will integrate with QuickBooks Online, specifically their payroll. So if you have to do different project costing, or you just want to have an online timesheet program, T-Sheets is great for that. QuickBooks and Intuit actually have their own merchant service, so credit card processing. I can get you pretty competitive rates on that as well. And then through QuickBooks, they have the ability to order checks, forms, and different supplies, and we can get you discounts on those as well. So let's move over to the cash budget sheet. So just a little bit of disclosure. This is a very simple sheet. It does not take the place of an accounting system or accounting software. At its most basic, it's going to let you enter in the transactions you know that are coming, you foresee are coming, and see how much you can stretch your dollar out for that, and let you know when you need to put money in the company or try to figure something out to get through this crisis. This isn't really any type of tax, legal, or lending advice. So just be aware of that. On the sheet, as we go through it, you're going to see a few areas where you really have to worry about entering information. On this initial sheet, it's anything highlighted in blue, and that's a recurring theme throughout this spreadsheet. If you look down at the bottom where you can scroll throughout the different tabs, the only other area that you need to enter in information will be the transaction planning. And that is the sheet that requires the most work from you, but the better information you put in there, the more information you're going to get out of the spreadsheet. So pretty much the first thing you need to pick is the date you want this to start. Now, naturally, if you want to start using it, it's going to be this Sunday. I recommend using Sunday as a start date just because it's going to help everything flow a little bit better throughout the sheet. Put your starting cash or the sum of your checking and savings account balances, whatever amount of money you want to track, you need to enter that in as of that date that you entered above there. The next area, this is pretty cool. You can enter in a low cash threshold. So in a couple different areas on the spreadsheet, you are going to have color coded alerts to let you know when your ending cash balance falls below that number. And again, if you don't have my email address, it's tmetzinger@ybi.org. So feel free to reach out to me. A few of you already have, specifically involving the QuickBooks Online subscriptions. But if you have any questions about this spreadsheet, feel free to reach out to me on there. The first thing, this is your dashboard, your budget dashboard. And these sheets are all protected. They're password protected. So you won't have to worry about messing anything up. If you do want to do some custom things or want to tweak it a little bit, just let me know and either I can do it for you or talk you through it or give you the password to make some changes. But on here, it's giving you a 6-week rundown of some important pieces of information for you. And it's going to keep updating these 6 weeks. So it's pulling today's date automatically in the yellow box at the top. And then the start of this week and the subsequent weeks will automatically update as you use the spreadsheet. So the first thing it's going to show you is your cash balance for the start of the week. It's going then to show you your accounts receivable balance and accounts payable balance, as well as your net working capital. That's what the NWC stands for. Now, one of the things that I'd like to point out is you don't have to use this to keep track of your receivables and payables. That's totally up to you. But if you don't have accounting software and you are offering receivable terms to your customers or your vendors or are giving you terms, this is a nice, easy way to keep track of it. But again, QuickBooks, for what you're able to get it at with the discount, is just so much better. And it's what it's designed to do. And it gets you reports generated that you may need for different things, especially if you're going to get a loan through a bank. The next area is an accounts receivable and payable due display. So it's giving you a heads up over the next 6 weeks based on the information you're putting in, what amount of receivables are due or payables are due for a given week, if you have any loans that are due, and then wages as well, which is a very important thing, obviously, and hence the reason of the Paycheck Protection Program, which we will talk about a little bit as well. And then at the bottom here, this is a little bit of an erratic graph, but it's going to show you on this line chart pretty much where your cash balance is at the beginning of each of the weeks. So this sheet right now extends out for 2 years. If you need it, if you need more, just let me know with my email address. The next sheet is the actual budget sheet. So it's listing each week, starting with the week that you had entered information in for the next 2 years. And it's automatically pulling your beginning bank balance. So I had entered 12,500. The next section is going to be where all of your money coming in is going to be shown. So we have a category for showing revenues coming in, and then another one for any type of financing or equity coming in. So if you are one of the lucky few who were able to get the Paycheck Protection Program loan, you will be able to put that in here, or if you're tapping a line of credit, you can put that information in on the transaction planning sheet. So the sum of those will total in row 6. So it's showing your total cash in for that week. And then in the next row, in row 8, your total cash available. So it's taking your beginning bank balance for the week, your cash in, and letting you know this is how much money you are projecting to have this week to spend. In rows 10 through 12, it's showing you the different categories of money coming out. So any of your general expenses coming out, loan payments, and then wages. Row 13 will sum those expenses for you. And row 15 is going to show you at the end of the week what your cash balance should be. That ending cash balance carries forward to the following week and throughout the rest of the spreadsheet. And this is one of the areas where you will see the color coding. So I believe, give me one second, I put in 3,500 as my alert level. So on the week of 5/24, I dropped below that amount, and it's letting me know with the red colored cell. In row 17, this is showing your cash flow, whether it being positive or negative for the week. Just a nice metric to see and give you an idea of how you perform that week. Further down, this is showing you your beginning accounts receivable balance for each week, as well as the ending. So it's taking into consideration any new sales, any receipt of payment you're getting, and same thing on the payable side, any new bills you received and what you have to pay out. And then it's also showing your net working capital down below. So this entire spreadsheet right here is totally automatic. You don't need to do anything here. Again, if you want to get some more information on here or customize it, let me know and we can unlock it. But the next sheet it's the big one. I mean, this is where all of the work, and by you taking the time to put in the information correctly here and accurately and coming back and updating it, this is where you're really going to get the knowledge that you need to stretch your dollar. So it's pretty simple. There's not a lot to it. The first thing you have to do in column A is enter your customer or vendor. And honestly, this is just for you to keep track. This isn't something that you have to put in, but I mean, it just kind of makes sense for you to be able to keep track of who you're paying, when they need paid, or vice versa, who you sold something to and are expecting to be paid on. Column B, transaction type. Now this one is very important, and there's actually a drop down. So you have to select one of these five. So we have revenue, expense, loan, equity, cash in, loan payment, which would be going out, and then wages. So based off of what you select here is where the transaction will be categorized on the budget sheet. Column C is the bill date or the invoice date that is on the invoice or the bill that you've sent or received. And just enter in a date there. The due date, this is more or less for your record keeping. Now, obviously, if a vendor is giving you 30 days to pay, you need to stretch it out that entire time as long as you possibly can, especially, that's a good business practice to begin with, but especially during this time. I'm going to talk about a couple other suggestions for making your cash stretch out a little bit later once we get done with the budget sheet, but that's a very important one. So you're able to put in the due date here so that okay, I need to pay this by then, or this is when my customer is supposed to pay me. Column E is another date field, and this is the most important one. This is where you are anticipating the date that your customer is going to pay, or that you plan on paying your bill to your vendor. You'll put that in here. Now, initially, there's some things that are going to be due. So, and that's why I have this note field over here. Ohio Edison, we know it's going to be due on the 10th of the month. So you can project that pretty accurately. You know when that's going to happen. But otherwise, column E will start out for you as an estimate as to when you're going to pay. Once that time comes and goes, you actually make the payment, you need to update that date to accurately reflect the day that money's coming out. So, in a perfect world, the day you put in there is going to be the day the money comes out of your checking account. But if you're really stretching it and you're going a little bit past terms, then you need to make sure you update that date so that the budget sheet is accurately reflecting that. Column F is the amount, pretty simple there. And then column G and H are really for your purposes. It's your way of keeping track of what's been paid and what has not been paid. So everything on here, I just have it all listed as not paid. And when I send you this spreadsheet, this is all going to be cleared out for you. But again, column E is the key one here. So it's what you need to put in accurately to begin with as your estimate of when you're going to pay. And then once you do make the payment or you receive the payment, it's going to need to be updated so that the spreadsheet keeps working and it's keeping track of your cash balance throughout. So just going back to the budget sheet, this should make a little bit more sense for you. We have 2 money in categories and we have 3 money out categories. And that's the sum of those 5 are based off of the drop down that we had talked about. So before we go any further, are there any questions about anything? You can type it in the Q&A area. And then we can go from there. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. So, we'll have some Q&A at the end of this as well. 1 second. So going back to the PowerPoint, these are some additional ways that you can work on making your money last throughout this whole COVID-19 pandemic. Communicate. That is one of the best things you can do. You just have to reach out to people you owe money to, and even customers as well, and see with your vendor or your lender if there's anything you can do with deferring payments. I know a lot of banks are giving some clients 2 months of loan deferral. I mean, I'm not aware of any doing more, and maybe they're not doing any types of loan deferrals, but I mean, it goes for credit card companies too. The more you can communicate with them and give them an idea of what's going on, the better off you'll be without, killing your credit. Same thing goes for a landlord. I mean, these all go for personal expenses too. I mean, if you have a mortgage payment, you have to stay in communication with your bank and let them know what's going on so that they can work with you through that. The payroll protection program. So this has gotten a ton of news, obviously for good reason, when you can get a loan for 2.5 times your average monthly payroll and get the majority of it, if not all of it, totally forgiven. Now, I believe just yesterday, everything was passed to give it some additional funding, I think on the order of around $300 billion. So if you already had a loan in through through your bank, hopefully you're going to get a chunk of that. If not, I still would recommend reaching out to your bank if this COVID-19 is severely affecting your revenues. I mean, so many businesses have been forced to shut their doors just because of government orders. So I mean, if it's affecting you, and even if you think it's going to affect you, I would recommend applying for that loan if you have not already. Now, if you are not one of the lucky people who've already secured a payroll protection program loan, the CARES Act actually has a couple other interesting pieces to it that will benefit you. So if you do not receive that loan, one of the things that you have an option to do to stretch your money out a little bit is you're able to forego the payment of the employer portion of Social Security taxes that would otherwise be due from March 27th through the end of the year. So that's that 6.2% that the employer pays. What the employee pays is not able to be foregone. It's only the employer portion. So that's 6.2% payment that, depending on your payroll schedule, is either paid weekly, monthly, semi-annually. That can be deferred. 50% of the deferral will be due by the end of the year of 2021, and the remaining 50% is due by the end of the year 2022. So it's not any type, I mean, it's obviously not free money like the PPP can be, but it's allowing you to, and it's not even like a couple of months deferral, it's years that you're getting deferral on paying that's 6.2% of an employee's payroll. Another, and this one's even a little bit more interesting, is the employee retention tax credit. So this one is a fully refundable credit for employers equal to 50% of qualified wages that eligible employers pay their employees. It's for the time period of March 12th of this year through the end of the year. And there is a max amount, so it's up to $10,000 of qualified wages to each to employees, which translates into a max credit of $5,000. So at the end of the day, the most you can get out of this is a $5,000 tax credit, but I'm pretty sure it's a refundable tax credit, which is a great thing. And to be eligible for this, there is an eligibility piece. The employer either needs to have fully or partially suspended operations in 2020 due to a shelter-in-place restriction mandated by a government authority, or they had to have experienced a significant decline in gross receipts. Now, significant decline, that's, I'm not exactly sure if there's a definition of that, but as a small business owner, I think you'll be able to figure that out if you're experiencing a significant decline. One caveat to this though, and this kind of stinks, is this does not apply to any self-employed individual. So if you're in that boat, unfortunately, the employee retention tax credit does not really do anything for you. One of the final ones, and this one was just announced this week by the DeWine administration, and this is totally Ohio centric, and it's a great program. It's going to allow small business clients of Home Savings and Loan, which is based here in Youngstown, First Federal Bank of the Midwest, which is the bank that Home Savings is merging with, or People's Bank in Marietta. So if you are a client of one of those banks, this loan program is exclusively available to you. It allows you to secure up to $200,000 in funding. The funds can be used for working capital, payroll, rent, mortgages, other fixed debts, utilities, and other bills. The rate is 3.25%. There's no origination fees, and it will carry a 35-month term. Your first 6 payments are interest only, and then the remaining 29 are a combination of principal and interest. So again, it's for Ohio-based small businesses, and they have to be a client of Home Savings, First Federal Bank of Midwest, or People's Bank in Marietta. Any questions about anything we've gone over? All right, if you don't have any questions now, again, feel free to email me. My email is tmetzinger. Actually, I do have a couple. Sorry about that. All right, Quinn, 1 second. Go ahead. What's your question, Quinn?
Oh, hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not a customer of any of those banks, but to me, I don't quite understand. There's 3 banks you listed, right? But there's a lot of banks. So do we then reach out to that bank, or is it whether we're an existing customer of that bank? Can you just talk a bit about that?
Sure. I'm not exactly sure of what the actual need is there. I would think if you reached out to the bank and let them know that you're interested in becoming a customer and bring this up to them, they would be able to guide you with that. But that is one of the unfortunate things that there's a lot of banks in the state, and they're only using 3 of them. And I think obviously there's a geographic component to it. I'm not sure if it's areas that seem to be affected more severely by COVID, or what the reason is, but at the very least, I would recommend reaching out to them and seeing if by becoming a client of the bank, you're going to be able to be eligible for the funding.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.
Yep. And then Patricia had a question: is there any type of loan that small businesses that do 1099s can apply for? And off the top of my head, I don't believe so. And the reason being for that, at least on the federal level, is any 1099 contractor. So by being 1099, they're self-employed. They are themselves eligible to apply for that payroll protection program. I know the state of Ohio is trying to do something to open up unemployment to 1099 contractors, but I don't think they actually have a plan for that just yet. The other thing too is, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. That's so in the payroll protection program, if any of you applied, the bank should have specifically told you that those, and this is a whole nother thing where, you know, sometimes 1099s are almost like employees, and that's a whole separate issue. But that's why they were not allowing you to include any 1099 contractors in your PPP average monthly payroll calculation. Patricia, you have another question?
I mean, I think Quentin has another question too. There's something in the chat.
Okay. So yeah, Quentin's asking with the Jobs Ohio also, unemployment, I understand, will be available mid-May for self-employed. That may be the case. I know during the press yesterday it came up. I think I may have missed that. I know the Lieutenant Governor has been talking about that fact, but yeah, hopefully that is the case, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyone else have questions?
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, this is my first webinar, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Now, what I was saying though is with me being my own company, I
Yes.
pay my employees and then I give them a 1099 at the end of the year. So there is no type of small business loan that like a company in my situation could apply for.
So you're paying them, you said you're paying them as 1099s and not like with a W-2?
Correct.
As of right now, no. And again, that the whole,
Okay.
I guess the thinking is that because those 1099 people are technically their own boss, their own employee as well. They are eligible for some of these programs, but unfortunately with treating them as contractors as opposed to employees, there's really not too much you can do there.
Well, I'm saying for myself. So like this has really hit my business hard.
Sure.
Out of 11 companies that I clean for, I'm down to 2, but I
Mhm.
still have to pay the girls that help me and all my bills. So I didn't know if there was any type of small business loan that I could apply for or not.
I'm not aware of any. You know, technically, your 1099 people could apply, you know, themselves to try to get some protection and get a little bit of assistance. But
Okay.
aside from that, yeah, I'm not too sure of there being anything else other than waiting for the state to come up with their plan or their process for the Ohio unemployment insurance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. If anybody else has any questions, you can either respond in the chat or raise your hand and then I can unmute you. So again, we'll email this spreadsheet out to you and feel free to reach back out to me if you have any questions about it or need help with it. And same goes for, you know, looking into any of the QuickBooks Online services, you know, whether it's getting it transferred over to you or transferred over to me from your current account or setting up a new account. It's a pretty quick process. There's not much to it. And it's a great piece of software. It just keeps everything together for you. Great smartphone integration. You're able to take pictures of any receipts you get or bills and just, you know, have it stored electronically for you so you don't have a shoebox of receipts at the end of the year. So, you know, I highly recommend it. And we can talk more about that if any of you are interested. But it looks like there are no further questions. So thank you for joining us. And if you have any other general business questions, feel free to reach out to me. If I don't have an answer for you, I can find somebody at the YBI who can help you. So thank you very much. Have a great Friday and a great weekend and take care.